Good evening, everyone. Thank you. First of all, thank you so very much for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be here. About this message that we just received about being on time and don't be late and everything. We Brazilians, we should be listening to this every day in the morning so we can prepare ourselves not to be late. That's one of the things. That was one of the very first things that I learned when I came to this country. If you are on time, you are late. If you want to be and show respect to each other, present yourself at least 10 minutes before your time, so you are showing respect for the persons that are receiving or waiting for you. But we Brazilians, I think that we should be training this a little bit more because it looks like it's in our DNA, on our blood. I don't know. Something happens with us that we cannot be on time ever, never. Anyways, trials and consolation. Actually, I was here a few months back, and I was given the opportunity to give this very same talk in Portuguese, and today we're going to be doing that in English. What is the main topic over here? The very first time every time that we talk about the trials, the word that comes after is expiation. So we listen to that all the time: trials and expiation, trials and expiation, trials and expiation. But today we're not going to be talking about the expiation. I will just mention later on during the topic, just to give a glimpse about the matter itself. But we're going to be focusing much more on the consolation. Because our Heavenly Father, as a loving Father as He is, He doesn't want us to go through the suffering and the challenges that we go in our daily lives without giving us the strength and the consolation to face those challenges. As a loving Father, He wouldn't offering us challenges in difficult times if we couldn't stand it, if we didn't have the strength to go over, and even if we fail, that we could look for the consolations. So we are going to be talking about what is the trials, why we have trials in our lives, why do we need that to our evolvement, and where we can find the consolation so we can get the strength to face the challenges that we face on our daily lives. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let's see if I can do this. Yes, perfect. Okay, trials. What are trials? Why do they exist? Why do we have and face the challenges almost on a daily basis on our lives? When we go to Spirit's book on the second part, question 115, Kardec asks for the enlightened spirits. Are some spirits created good and other bad? And the answer that we got from the enlightened spirit is, God created all spirits simple and unaware, meaning lacking of knowledge, no knowledge whatsoever. God has given them each a particular mission to enlighten them and help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth and rise close to Him. Spirits acquire knowledge by experiencing the trials inflicted by God. So trials are the challenges that we face on our daily lives as an instrument that we can learn and practice the moral laws with good choices, using our free will in order to get closer to God. We Spiritists, we view the trials as the challenging situations that we have, but not as a punishment. Challenging situations are difficult times that we go by to see how we're going to be using our free will. So in order to be able to make sure that we learn, that we are in line with the moral values that God has taught us through the several messages that we received, especially from Christ, we got to face those challenges to see if using our free will, we're going to be making good choices facing those challenges. So, and the purpose of those challenges is to promote our spiritual evolvement and our improvement in our virtues. So every time that we're going to make choices, that we make a good choice based on the moral values, we are improving our virtues. So that's why they exist. They're going to bring us the spiritual growth that we need to get closer to Him. Expiations, as I mentioned before, are a kind of punishment, yes, or consequences due to our bad choices and fault from the past. So expiations are something that we have to go through on the same way and repair the bad deeds that we had practiced in the past because of our bad choices. But expiations over here, it's not on topic. We are going to be talking about the trials and most specifically about the consolations. So can you give me an example on trial that we can bring on over here? This is, no, you got to use this and this here. Okay. Can you give some examples of trials? Yes, of course. Trials can manifest themselves in different forms and different ways, such as financial difficulties, for example, health problems, complicated relationships, which serves and tastes our faith and ability to overcome. One of the challenges that we have on almost on a daily basis is the trial of the patience. Because patience is not something that God doesn't give us patience. Patience is not something that we can go to Walgreens and buy a bottle. Oh, give me 50 of these capsules on the patience that we're going to be taking this 3 times a day, so to see if I can get more patience to my life. No, we don't get that. God doesn't give that to us. God gave us situations where we needed to practice our patience. For example, for the wives over here, a husband with flu. There is nothing that exists more from you ladies than a husband with the flu. Man, I know, I can tell by myself. We became a pain because we became so, I am so sick, we don't have the strength, we don't get out of bed, we want everything, bring it back to us. And you girls, you have a lot of patience with us. So that's why we husbands, we get the cold and the flu from time to time, to give us, you guys, the opportunity to develop the patience. So that's a virtue. So that's what we go from. That's why we have those kind of challenges. Among these, as just a joke, of course, but among these, we have other very difficult and profound, I would say, challenges that we face that we can bring up to that. For example, the trials of wealth and poverty. Question 815 on the Spirit's book, and says that, what trials should human beings dread the most, wealth or poverty? They are equally dangerous. Poverty inspires complaints against providence, against God, while wealth stimulates all kinds of excess. So that's another trial that we have. So the excess of resources or the lack of resources will bring us different teachings. What we can learn from poverty, for example, or the lack of resources? The lack of resources will train us on humility, resignation, hope, resilience, faith, and trust in God. The wealth, the access of resources can develop charity, solidarity, foresight, and detachment. Because if we have the resources and we are giving those, or not giving, but sharing those resources with people who has less than us, we are practicing detachment. We are practicing charity. So every time, or each one of these lessons, it has a purpose. It has something that we got to learn with that. But let's say that on this incarnation, we are living without the resources, or we don't have anything that we can give it away. So what's going to bring it to us? Oh, God forgot about me. Why do I have to suffer? Why everything that I do doesn't work out? Why I'm always with my bills late, or always I have problems with the money and this kind of things. If we started to practice humility, resignation, resilience, we're going to be facing those challenges on a much easier way. It's going to be hard. It's still going to be hard. But then we'll find the consolations, which we're going to be talking a little bit later about that, and finding a way that we can face this with the strength that we need. These are the trials, the wealth, and the poverty that we can bring or talk about. But I also wanted to bring back the previous slide that we're talking. When God has given then each a particular mission to enlighten, help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth. What is the truth? Why God wants us to acquire the knowledge by the experience of the trials inflicted by God to reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth. What is the truth? I am the way, the truth, and the life. And what is the greatest law that God in Christ taught to us? The law of love. What is charity if not love in motion? And how can we define charity as Jesus understood it? Charity is benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness of offenses. And what does Kardec says? Kardec says that without charity, there is no salvation. Spiritists love one another. That's the first teaching. Educate yourself is the second. Within Christianity, you'll find all the truth. The errors in which man has become rooted are all of a human origin. And what was the most important teaching where the entire Christianity it's based on? The love of Christ. The truth that we are looking for are the concept of love and how can we bring love towards our trials and atonements. If we understand that, and every time that we face something complicated, we act with benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness. We have the instruments and the tools which will give us the strength to face the challenges. Why do we often fail on our trials? Why we are always falling behind every time that we face a challenge like that? Well, on question 785 on the Spirit's book, it says, what is the greatest obstacle to progress? And the answer of the Spirit is pride and selfishness. This in terms of moral progress, as the intellectual progress is constant. But in terms of moral progress, pride and selfishness are the main problems that we have and that we face. When we go to the Gospel according to Spiritism on chapter 15, 8 and 3, it tells to us, all of Jesus' morality, it's summed up in charity and humility, which is exactly the opposite of the pride and selfishness. Charity and humility are the two virtues that will build the foundation of our moral values. If we bring charity and humility on our daily choices and actions, we will be combating pride and selfishness. Because humility, it's the opposite of pride. Charity is the opposite of selfishness. Charity, we're giving away for people in need. Selfishness is when they bring everything back to me. Humility, it's the opposite of pride. So, charity and humility are the base of the constructions of our moral values. And that's how we're going to be getting the strength to face the trials and the challenges that we have. In light of this teaching, we understand that improving the virtues that are contrary to pride and selfishness are the levers that direct us towards the path of progress. Practicing good through charity and humility are antidotes and remedies to heal the pains and the wounds that we cause to ourselves with our wrong choices. So we saw and we understand now which are the trials, why do we often fail on our challenges, what are the moral values that we can build up our development, our spiritual development, and we understand why we're going through this. Question 132 of the Spiritists book: what is the purpose of the reincarnation? God imposes us the reincarnation in order for us to reach perfection. So every time that we come back to earth, we have a purpose. What is our purpose over here? Evolve. How are we going to be evolving? Getting more money, getting more material values, or developing our moral concepts and our moral attitudes? If our purpose is to evolve and to get closer back to God. So if you want to get back to God, we have to evolve and develop our moral values. So we understand what we're doing over here. At the end of this incarnation, our purpose, or at least our goal, is to live this life much better than when we got over here, or at least with less debits to be paying off in the future. In order to do that, moral aspects, moral values, choices made based on these moral values will guide us through that pathway. Anyways, but we understand also that life is tough. It's not an easy thing. Waking up every day very early, having kids to take care of home, parents sick that we needed to provide it to, a lot of challenges in the work, the boss that we don't get along with, and a lot of things, the traffic on I-4, which became a nightmare in the last few years for all of us. So we understand life is tough. It's not always that we have, this balance, the good sense, to make good decisions, not to be shouting to other people and everything. When we need this strength, where we can find the consolations, where we can find the strength that we're looking for and sometimes is lacking inside of us. First of all, what is a consolation? Consolation is act or effect of consoling. It's when we offer relief, comfort, consolation, or also a palliative for someone which is in pain. It's also a way that we can comfort someone which is suffering, moral or physically. That's consolation, something that we get to ourselves or that we can offer to someone else, which will elevate the spirits and give the person the strength that I might need on that moment. That's the consolation. Where we can find consolations, where they are in our lives. As I said in the beginning, during the first slide, God is not going to be giving us this life or offering this opportunity and asking us to go through all of these trials and challenges without giving us the source of strength that we need. Which are those two sources? Holy moly, I've been living in the United States for 25 years. I still didn't learn English at all. One day, I might have to have some private classes with teens someday. Maybe I will be, that's what you're looking for. Your part-time job, and maybe I'm going to be hiring you for some private lessons. Okay. All right. So, two sources that we can find the consolations. One, the very first one that comes to our mind is Jesus, as the big brother sent by God. From Jesus, we learn that blessed are the afflicted, those who mourn. Blessed are the meek and the peaceful. Blessed are the merciful. These are just a few things that we can always remember as a source of consolation. If I'm going through a difficult challenge, blessed are the afflicted. Blessed are the merciful. When we offer mercy, we are offering forgiveness. So this is one of the choices. This is one of the consolations that we can find also. Based, obviously, I just brought over here 3 topics of the Beatitudes, the Sermon of the Mount. But if we read the chapters 5, 6, and 7 from the Gospel of Matthew, which we have the Sermon of the Month and the Beatitudes, we're going to be having all these moral values that Christ has taught to us. But I just mentioned these as an example to see what is the first source of consolation? Jesus and his lessons and his moral values. What is the second source of consolation that we can find? Spiritism as the promised consoler. Why is that? And why am I bringing this aspect? Because Spiritism explains the evolutionary process, reincarnation, multiplicity of the inhabited worlds, explains the purpose of a reincarnation, who I am, where did I come from, where I'm heading to, which are the three most philosophical questions from the humankind. And Spiritism answers and explains that. Spiritism explains divine wisdom in the tests and the trials and the challenges it offers to us. Why do we suffer? Why do we face challenges in our daily lives? In order to be using our free will based on the moral values that we learn to make good choices and learn the way or the pathway back to God. So Spiritism, it's another source of consolation. Explains who we are, what we are doing over here, what's the purpose of our existence. These are two consolations that we can grab out of the books. Let's put them this way. One, of course, we can find in the Bible. We can find in the Gospel according to Spiritism. The Spiritism itself, we can find all of these concepts on the Spirit's books and these kind of things. But I would like to go a little bit further with these consolations. We also have what we can call the sublime consolations. The sublime consolations are a few aspects, a few things that once we learn, once we dive deep into that, we will feel the strength of God being given to us, or we will be able to acquire the strength that we are looking for directly from God. One of these sublime consolations, for example, is this passage, which we can find in the Gospel according to Spiritism in chapter 5. If you heard it, it said many times that he does not put a heavy burden on weak shoulders. The burden is always in proportion to the strength, just as the recompense depends on the degree of the resignation and courage. In other words, we don't face challenges greater than we have the strength to support. We don't carry in our shoulders on a weight that we are not able or we don't have the strength to carry on. Because if we would, God wouldn't be loving. God wouldn't be just. If he's not loving, if he's not just, he can't be God. So we have the challenges that we have nowadays because we are ready for it. Because it's time. Because we are prepared. We might not even understand and we might not even find how in the world I have the strength, or how in the world I was able to face that challenge or that situation. How in the world I got the idea to be solving or facing this or that or doing this or that. Because we're ready. We are ready. We do not face anything different that we cannot give it. It's basically the same thing as we do on our educational process, for example. We don't get trials, we don't get tests, we don't get quizzes on a subject, on topic that we haven't learned yet. So, in order to have a quiz ahead of us, that's because we already learned the lessons and we are ready for it. It's the same thing as in the same thing. In the other hand, it's the stronger that we are, the more prepared and the greater are the challenges. But when we listen to this, when you hear that, I say, but I don't want to get stronger because I don't want to face big challenges. But anyways, when we were at high school, it said, Where were you saying, no, I don't want to go to college because I'm afraid of college? No, we want to go to college. We want to move forward. We want to learn more and more in order to evolve and to grow. It's the same thing over here. I want to get stronger. I want to get better and stronger values so I can keep doing better choices and facing the challenges that I have to face. Because make no mistake about it, in order to be or reach the perfection that we were meant to, we got to go through those challenges. And believe it or not, even if it sounds strange, it gets easier as hard as it gets. Why is that? Because we are already used to the challenges. We are already used to making the good choices. Those choices, they started to act or come from us naturally. We don't think it anymore. The charity, the forgiveness, the humbleness will start to come automatically out of us, out of our words, out of our hearts. So it becomes easier as we move forward. That's one of the things that I'd like to bring. The other sublime consolation, which is very much philosophical, but it fits a lot on what you're seeing over here today. God is sovereignly just and good. So everything that happens to us is sovereignly just and good. There is no mistakes on God's plan. If God is just and He is good, everything that we go through is just and good. We may not understand, we may not see why I'm going through these, but it's just and it is good for us. If it wouldn't, we wouldn't be going through. God's, it's love and justice above all. If what we were suffering or going through right now, it wouldn't be good or just for us, we wouldn't be going through that. That's another sublime consolation. There is a third aspect, which I'll give you for you guys as homework. On the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, is the chapter is called Christ the Consoler. It's the shortest chapter on the Gospel according to Spiritism. It's about 3 or 4 pages. And why this passage and this chapter is so important? Because all the messages that we find on this chapter came from the Spirit of Truth. Who was the Spirit of Truth? Jesus Himself. So all the phrases, all the messages, everything that is there came straight from Jesus. And when we look in those words, it feels like a blessing in our souls. It feels like a balm that we're receiving, refreshing our strength, refreshing our soul and our spirits, in order that we can keep able to keep walking and doing the things that we're doing. That passage, it brings all the counsel that we may need facing any kind of obstacles that we have in our lives. On those passages, on those words, we can find everything that we have. I was looking, we don't have over here. One of the very verses that come to my mind is, I'm the doctor of the all souls. You come to me and I'll help you out. If you have any needs, talk to me. If you have any challenges, talk to me. How do we talk to Jesus? How do we talk to God? Through prayer, through connection, through meditation. And if we read this chapter, we're going to be able to acquire all of this strength that we might looking for. Another of the aspects of these sublime consolations is know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What is the truth? Love. Remember the very first one of the first slides that we're talking about? What is the truth? The truth is love. And it's this loving behavior that we're looking for that will give us the strength to face the challenges that we find. The new attitude that we may have will change the way that we face the challenges and provide us with the true knowledge of the truth. The truth that liberates, that heals, that grows. You know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What we're doing here, we are living this is reincarnation as a way to evolve and progress in order to reach perfection. What is the way that I'm going to be doing this? Facing challenges and difficulties to see how I'm going to be using my free will based on the moral values in order to make the good choices that Christ taught us and is expecting from us. What is or what are the basis of these challenge, of the basis of these choices? The law of love. And what are the aspects of the law of love that we can bring to our daily lives and start to using on a daily basis? Love is the sum of patience, tolerance, detachment, devotion, selflessness, benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness, and humility. This is the law, the formula of love. Are we going to be able to apply all of these all at once in the same day? Well, most likely not. Can we apply some of these in some aspects of our life on a daily basis? Surely we can. Surely we can. The other good aspect of this, the more that we practice, the stronger we get. The more we practice, the easiest it gets in order to practice all of this. Because if we look in our lives, where we were, the values that we had 10, 15, 20 years ago, it's completely different than we have today. We evolved on this last 10, 15, or 20 years. We acquired new values. Things that we liked or that we did 20 years ago, we cannot even imagine doing that again today because those values doesn't fit on us anymore. Same thing here. The more that I get tolerant, the more that I get patient, the more that I get selfless, the more that I'm benevolent, I get strength, my values change. What I was doing in the past, it doesn't fit on me anymore. That's a daily exercise. The trials and the trials that we're going to face are daily challenges, are daily things that we're going to be facing in our lives. The consolation that we have based on these are also daily exercises which will give us the strength in order to face those challenges. These are the instruments that we may have that will guide us to the evolvement and the spiritual growth that we are all looking for. If we can follow this law of love, certainly at the end of our existence, at the end of this life, we're going to be leaving this planet much better than we got over here. Thank you so very much for your time and attention. I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you.